Hello, guys. It's very nice to be standing here and talking about our recent work. Not that very recent, but very interesting case, key art that we did for Ubisoft Prince of Persia. Maybe I'll start with a short introduction. I'm Rafał. I'm creative director of the Hungry Beast. What we're doing at the Beast every day is key arts for brands that we love, mostly, unique gadgets and activations, and of course trailers, game trailers. These are some of our clients and friends. And the topic today is why is simple not that simple? Because working on key art is never an easy challenge. It's always fantastic and inspiring, but it's extremely difficult to do it successfully sometimes and finish it without too much compromise, of course. So, as a fantastic leader said, simple can be harder than complex. You have to work hard to get thinking clean to make it simple. So why is it so hard? There is also another leader who I will also quote. That's what she said. Michael Scott from The Office, of course. But seriously speaking, maybe I'll ask a question. How many of you are from game dev? How many of you? Okay, cool. Few of you. How many of you are from marketing? Okay, cool. How many of you are from publishers side? Okay, so I can't joke about anyone, almost. Okay, so, but there is not a fair proportion, so I may. Like everyone knows, working on an art is like 3-8 years long process. It's changing, it's fluctuating, it's sometimes very frustrating, but all of the elements change during the period. So it's sometimes very difficult to judge what is the USP in the end, because the game has a lot of elements. Also, during the process, the game evolves, the trends change, and judging what is important now can be quite challenging. Games become bigger and bigger, so we have a lot of assets, a lot of things to advertise. And of course, bigger games have a lot of target groups. And if you're checking target groups, you of course know that each target group has its favorite ones, have favorite styles and favorite approaches to the key art and to the assets of the game. And of course, competition has done it all, so it's sometimes very difficult, even if you create a fantastic art. This year, already 3 games came and have a very similar approach, and you're mostly fucked, and you have to do it again. So that's why it's challenging, that's why it's hard work, and I will try to show you how we approach the art, what was our biggest challenges. So this is the art piece that we did for Prince of Persia. I still quite like it. I will start with a stupid anecdote, because everyone loves stupid anecdotes. This is, of course, a bit embarrassing, but most of the designers, when they work, they sometimes try to put a very small signature somewhere in the art to have a feeling that they have something hidden, like a game. Especially when you're working in gaming and you do key arts for life, you sometimes do some hidden stuff. And we tried to do it in this art, and I'll show it to you. We were hiding in some of our arts a very small owl. Can you see it somewhere here? Can anyone? Good, because it's not there. Our lawyers were screaming at us for 3 hours and didn't let us to do it in the end. I will just give you a justification. Why do we use owls? Because owls are scary. I don't know if you know, but owls are predators, and they eat ferrets and even big creatures. And they have a small beak. And they can't chew it. They swallow. And they vomit the rest that they can't digest. So somehow we love them. I don't know why, but we have something for the owls. They seem like Chucky for us, a bit creepy. But getting back to the point. This was the brief for the art. Concept for a singular iconographic image that is the foundation upon which a game marketing campaign is built. No pressure. Only a very important piece of art. Of course, during the process, we knew that the cover of the game is already being established inside of the pipeline. So we knew that we are delivering a second art that's going to be a supplementary art. But also the pressure was still very big. So the pillars were, of course, the main character, an epic adventure in Persian mythology, a modern take on the brand, because the brand, as you know, has changed significantly. It's of course an epic brand. It was, for me personally, it was fantastic because it was my first game ever, like the Prince of Persia, and the sound of dying on the spikes. I don't know if any of you can recall this sound, but it was something that was haunting me for a few years at least. As for the creative roots, what we wanted to check was, of course, a heroic pose with swords, dynamic aerial pose, and a group variation. Because in this game, and this is not a spoiler, Sargon has his immortals as part of his group. So, just as a key message, we know that a good key art should be strong, simple, and unique. Strong, to be fair, is easy. Simple is sometimes easy if you are judging the amount of elements on the art, but unique in combination with simple is not that easy. Why? Because when we got info on what is important and what is new in the game and what we should highlight, we got this. And this is a lot, like dynamic vertical gameplay. It's like, okay, new amazing world, getting back to the roots, new exciting hero, rich storyline, new superpowers and combo system, epic bosses, new graphic style. The hero is part of the Immortals team, of course. Of course it's connected to the storyline, but still it's something that can be shown separately if someone wants. So, as for the first explorations, because I will take you through a few stages that we went during this, working on this art. And in the first stage, this is a bit of our thinking. Like dynamic gameplay, this is something that's very difficult to show in a key art, especially if you want the key art to be impactful, it is difficult. So what we wanted to take out of this was the dynamics. Dynamics is something that can be shown, and it can suggest dynamic gameplay. The amazing world, yes, of course, it's basics. Getting back to the roots, this is something that's, for us, it's easier to show in a gameplay trailer or in other assets. This asset is very difficult to focus here. The new exciting hero, of course, rich storyline. This is always difficult to combine. So we were hesitant. We were thinking, okay, this is something that we will experiment on, do some versions with, but we do not feel that this is something that would be, because this is also not a game about storytelling. So the focus, like as soon as you try to show too much elements of the storyline in this kind of game, you get distracted. Superpowers and combo systems. Powers, yes, but not too much detail. It's still connected to the dynamics at the beginning. Epic bosses, we will try. New graphic style, oh yes, of course, it's the key. The hero is part of the Immortals team. Many characters, the art becomes complicated, but of course it can be legendary in the epic. So these are the first approaches. These are the first sketches that we did. This is an example of, you know, our main hero Sargon high in the air with his sword whooshing and energy. In the background we see, you know, the statues of the legendary Persia and some mountains and something very raw and dynamic. And we liked it, but let's go through next stages. This is another sketch that we did. What we liked here was the pose of Sargon. We liked that it's very dynamic. We also like the power and strength that it's there. So we try to highlight this in the next stages. We don't see, of course, the immortals and other elements, but this is part of the exploration and checking what can be shown and which is too much. This is also a cool approach, and here we saw that we do not need to show too much detail of the legendary background, because even if we show some mystical elements that are broken and in dynamics, then we already see the energy and the mysticality of the space. For us, the hero was a bit too boring here. The pose is a bit static, but we see the energy quite well. And the hero seems interesting. Here is also another example that we tested. We love the perspective. It's very dynamic. It gives you opportunity to show the spectacular environment that can be thrown into a totally different perspective. But the problem is that the 3D model that we would be working on could not. Maybe there might be difficulties with achieving this pose in 3D, and there are a lot of shortcuts of the body that do not make him look very strong and very the dynamics is there, but we were afraid of his face. We were afraid of some angles in his body that can be like challenging here. But still, we liked it very much. This is also cool. But the biggest problem here was that we didn't know if he's attacking and he's epic jumping at his enemies, or he's been knocked and he's falling and dying in a minute. So yeah, and this is another approach when we try to make him more like a conqueror, but he's more of a fighter than just Indiana Jones. So we thought it's maybe not the right direction. Here is also the one with more of the storyline and with more of the storytelling, and this is cool. This is, I think, that can be quite epic at the next stages, but also not something that we felt very comfortable with. We thought it's maybe, especially that we knew that there is already direction that's being checked, that's more focused on the background and on the land and Persia. We thought that maybe it can be boring to have both. So we also had this one, and this one was quite interesting for us. But we see the hero. The hero is quite small. We do not see everything that we needed to show. This one was quite interesting. We liked the pose of the hero and the power that we have, the dynamic pose, all of the elements are here. We even have the wings of the Simurgh. That's part of the story there in the background, and it could look quite well. The biggest challenge here was the pose of Sargon, of course, because we see him in a very unfavorable perspective. We see mostly his legs, and it would be very difficult to establish a very strong pose there. Of course, it's doable, but he's not a badass here. Like, he's kind of badass, but it still would be challenging. That's a variation of this, and that's also a more legendary version of the approach, of the first approaches. And that's a more dynamic version of the previous one we like the pose from half of his body up, because we like the dynamics of the swords. We liked him in this kind of angled pose because he seemed very dynamic, but we didn't like the legs because they felt quite weak. We didn't see, and they are in front of us, so we don't see the dynamics of front of the run yet. But it was still interesting. So the first takeaway from the first iteration was that Strength and agility is difficult to combine, and it was quite visible that he either is a Spider-Man or he's a strong, new, mystical, interesting character. Too much dynamism can make hero grotesque. We know that. We also often work with 3D models, and this is sometimes the biggest challenge to achieve a good strength and good natural pose with something like this. What we saw even in the test is that the environments can be more synthetic, symbolic, and they still work, and they are still interesting. And of course, if the scene is too big, we lose the magic. Let's move to exploration number 2. This was the iteration of the approach. So we said dynamic, we transferred to the hero. The background, of course, to a new amazing world. Getting back to the roots, still no. New exciting hero, more exciting. Rich storyline, no, we still don't like it. Superpowers and combos, yes, it can be achieved by some detail. Epic bosses, we had to try it. So in this iteration, we tried, of course, we iterated more with the second art that we had, and we felt that this is kind of interesting still. The dynamic pose with the swords felt, and what we introduced here was trying to introduce more of the magic and of the superpowers. And you can see it above, that there is a cloud behind him of the energy that he's generating. And this is still interesting. We also see the eyes of the Simurgh here above, so this could be quite symbolic and nice. But we also did tests with the enemies, how he's in action, mid-air, above them. We didn't want him to be so high above, because it would be too Spider-Man-y, but he's still interesting. Here is another variation of his pose. This was something that started interesting us, because at some point suddenly looking as if he was above the city, jumping above and fighting someone up in the air. This is something that tells us stuff about the gameplay, that is vertical, that is dynamic. We can achieve quite cool poses with him. We can have his eyes focused on us. So this was something worth talking about. When we put him between the enemies, it's not as impressive as it was. This pose was quite nice, but probably when we started thinking maybe too many elements, we see like the wings of the Simurgh and his pose, and maybe that might be too overwhelming. But what was really interesting us is focusing on the main hero and figuring out how he should look and how we should approach him. So we did some tests of his poses. We liked him in action. What we wanted to show about him was to show that he's a fighter, he's a tough guy, he is becoming the prince. He's not the prince yet. So we wanted to show strength, and we did some tests of the poses, and we felt that they are quite interesting and strong. And we did, of course, one test with his back. And this was something that gave us a very cool idea that we can combine few elements in one. That we found out that when we have his back, we add mystery, and the mystery combines his power and with storytelling and with his background. When we look at him immediately, we feel that there is some kind of mystery behind, that he has an interesting story to tell. So the mystery was something that appeared during the exploration. So the takeaway from the second set was bigger hero makes the art feel stronger. It would be cool to have his magic more visible, simplifying the architecture even more because it felt crowded and cramped and it wasn't as important at this stage. Mystery can solve some of our problems, as I said. So we moved to exploration number 3. And this is just a checklist of the approach. So, of course, we were still exploring the storyline way to check if it's still competitive. Well, like which one is, you know, more evolving into a more interesting stage. And it became quite interesting for us at some point. But to be fair, we were already started to lock on the hero pose. We felt that the hero is interesting enough to focus on him. And of course, we tested as much as we could because we had a lot of USPs to show. So we tested how can we introduce all of the elements into him. But during this process, of course, we started experimenting with the back pose. And we did one test of forgetting about all of the other USPs and just focusing on the USP that started to be the most interesting for us. And it was the main hero. And of course, adding some interesting detail, but like the energy. And we ultimately felt that with this pose, we already have not only an interesting hero, but we also have a feeling of mystery and story behind him. Like that he's not only telling us that he's new, like that he's just a fighter. We feel that there's a mystery. He's maybe a spy. Maybe he's planning to do something. There's some kind of relation between the viewer and him that makes him intriguing, mysterious, and makes you involved. So the takeaway from this was the back view becomes more and more interesting. We do not need a tornado jump to feel the dynamics, a stronger way to show the magic. The crew is not that important here. Architecture still can be there. So at this stage, we talked with the client and we were all started to feel the vibe that this is the pose that is the most interesting one, and it can convey all of the elements that we need from the brief, but we need to do them smartly. So we locked on the direction and we started experimenting, of course, and testing some other elements, like adding some architecture in front of him, like testing how the energy could be situated around him. So here we had like thousands of experimentations here. Here we were focusing more on the background, so I'll just show you like 3 versions because we didn't want to make it over cramped. We're also trying to find some symbols, but it wasn't working quite well. So we felt that architecture is too strong. We are losing the magic again. We are totally losing dynamism when we do it. And this is an important part of the gameplay. So exploration number 4. And here is when we started testing with the simwork in the background, just getting rid of other elements, just figure out that maybe some architecture on the sides can be there, but it's not important. And we started achieving some very interesting results. And of course, with testing of this approach, we also did some tests of color, because we wanted to figure out what kind of energy should be there. Like, is it like how to achieve this magical element, like the mysticism that we need, and combine it somehow. So that's why we used the balance between the colorful red eyes and the energy on him. We wanted to have a bigger connection between him and them. But in this example, we already saw that it's taking too much, focus from the main hero. So in our tests, we tested a bit more the energy behind him. We checked the temperature and the amount. And here we saw that it looked a bit too cyberpunkish. So we focused on more natural, magical elements. Of course, during this period, we also tested the swords, tested his face. I will show you some stupid poses that we achieved at some point. Here was also another test with even getting rid of the magic a bit more, focusing on the magic on him, and just a little glimpse of the simwork in the background. And it felt the most right for us at this stage. So the takeaway from this stage was the balance between the Arthas being invisible and being too sci-fi is important. The Arthas give us the dynamism. So when we have his body, he can be static, but when we add the energy, we can make him dynamic, and that was very important for us. Yeah. And I will show you the stupidest poses, because we did like, posing a character to be epic is a huge challenge. So you do like hundreds of them, like you move your elbow to the right, you move the elbow to the left, like you move the head to the left and right. And like it was madness mostly, but we had some stupid ones. Like here, for example, his head is snapped because the brief was, we have to show his face more. Like, okay, but this is like, human cannot put his head as much, it's going to look artificial. No, give us a bit more, a bit more, a bit more. And like, it's not grotesque, but it's close to being snapped, and it was too much. Here he is falling to the front, because then the concept was maybe he should be, but maybe he could be more mysterious. So like he started hiding like this, and he almost fell into the ground. Here is a cool version that he's shy, because at some point we tested like maybe he's too cocky, maybe he's too strong. And here he's a shy version of Sargon, and here is a version that he's standing like on the entrance to the club and saying, "You won't come in." Like this is the bad one. But at the end, the cool thing that we had from posing the character is that we can make him strong and even a bit more cocky when we use the energy around him to make him more dynamic. So the balance between the elements became important, and we felt that that's cool. Here are, for example, some tests of the energy, because when we felt that the energy makes more dynamism, of course we had to test how much energy we can put there. So this is more energy, this is also more energy, but more from his side and a bit more from his front. This is too much energy at this point. And this was too much. Like we felt that he's a mystical creature here, and he looks as if he was evoking the energy from his hand. He's not a mage. He has some magic powers that come from him, but he's not doing the abracadabra stuff. But here he looked like a mage from a very magic game. Of course, during the process, we did a lot of tests around the environments. We wanted them to appear, because this is a verb, like they can be very subtle, but there are some variations in here. They are very, very subtle. Yeah, that we tested some elements, additional architectural elements, not to make it over-cramped. So, still, and this is the most important part, getting back to the beginning, less is more. This is something that we always understand in the end, but we always understand it while going through the whole road. Like you have to go through the whole road and check all options, and then you can go cleaner and cleaner and cleaner. You shouldn't start from clean, because you are not sure that you did the right choices. So you have to do it. So at this stage, less is more. We need to balance the weights and color and fill in dynamics, of course. And yeah, color refinement too. And there were a lot of tests of color, of course. This is a more colorful version. And these were the tests when we already knew that we want to highlight his magic energy, but we also want to bring in some of the Persian side. So we felt maybe we can bring in a bit more color, but he started looking too magically. And we also tested the colors of the energy behind him. And we also did a colder version. And this one was, of course, too cold. The energy from his side looks as if it was electric, not magical. But, tests have to be done. And he also looks as if he was frozen. So we decided that we need to balance these two sides of the picture and try to combine it in a more modern and interesting way. So colder makes him feel more mysterious, and this was something very interesting after doing these basic tests. Too much cold makes him look artificial. So balancing. Yeah. So final polish. Final polish looked like this. So combining it to the cold one, we added some warmth to his body, to his head, but looks the cold elements of the moon from the side stayed there. Still, they made them more mysterious. The elements here in the background are already refined. We tested how to make it, the least visible, but still making it seem three-dimensional and have some depth there. And that's the final result. So in the end, we ended up like new exciting hero is the priority. Superpowers and combo systems are adding dynamism, but they don't have to be as visible. They can be shown with symbolism. Rich storyline can be shown there, just showing some smart elements like the eyes of the mystical creature in the back. The new graphic style, of course, it's the basics for the brand, and new amazing world can be a background and still exist in the art. And in the end, I feel that this was at best response for the brief, but this art became more epic and became more interesting, because this one would have not been so indistinguishable, and this one became very different from the IP, but it was still supporting the brand and the style very much. So final takeaways: never trust your initial instincts and never doubt your initial instincts. So I will just stop there. It's the basics. You have to do the tests. Like it's very important to have a good vibe at the beginning and feel, oh, I feel this is correct. But you still have to test. If after the tests your initial concept will stay and still be strong enough, it's good. But from my experience, like in 60-70% of work, it's not the initial one that you chose. It sometimes stays as an additional art stuff, but still experimentation is very, very important. Less is often more, but still you have to remember that the process is crucial. So getting rid of the additional element in the end is very important, but in the beginning it's just limiting your tool set. Stupid ideas give knowledge, and this is a fact. And talk with people outside of the group. So this is something that I'm always talking about. That this is why it's good for the dev teams to work with marketing or to work with outsourced marketing teams, because as I said previously, the team is always working with the same IP for 3 to 5 years. It's evolving, it's changing all the time. They know everything about the IP and how it is unique. But sometimes it's important to have some more distance to the IP to understand what could be cooler, what is the thing that is consistent with the trends that they are now there. And this is thank you for the amazing team that did all the work, for Maxim, Maciek, Kaja, Łukasz, Kamil, Eva, Ania, and for Ubisoft for letting us to talk about the whole process and all the pipeline and working with us on this. This was really a great adventure and a fantastic IP and game. And I encourage you to be unique, to be hungry, and to be the beast. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Rafał. Do you have maybe any questions?
Yes, we can come to questions now.
Hi, thank you for your talk. I have one question. How often did you get feedback from the game developers?
All the time.
All the time. So what was the, like you showed the process divided into some stages?
Yes.
After what, so as I understand, after each stage, you got a feedback from developers.
Yes, we talk with them at each stage. It's very important to talk close to to stay close to the creators and discuss with them, brainstorm and show what you like the feedback that the things that we were thinking after each stage is a collective feedback that we had after the tests, and it was fantastic working with them. It's always fantastic working with developers because it opens up all of the things that around the IPs, and when you work with and when you experiment like openly with the dev team, you see how they start understanding the changes that happened in the game already. So you start understanding what was important previously and is not important now anymore. Also, and you can highlight it on the next stages and have a better focus.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Anyone else?
Hi, thank you.
Hi.
How long is all the process from first brief to actually the last final graphics?
Okay, you mean like the one that we prefer to have, or one that we have mostly?
One you have mostly.
It's like 2 months. I always prefer to have 3 months to work on every asset because I think the creative process is crucial to establish something interesting and unique. And each IP is so big and has so many different elements in it that you have to take time and do a deep dive and understand it better. So for me, an ideal timeline for working on an asset like this is 3 months, because then I know that I can have a month for only the creative part, the very creative part, and then have 2 months to have a strong development and also with feedbacking. But we often work with 2 months, and it's still doable, but it has to have some compromises during the process. But of course, I hate compromises.
Thank you. Right.
Thanks.
We still have time for a question.
What danger do you see in your KV being similar to another already existing IP?
It really depends. Like as I wrote in the beginning, everything has been done already. Like it's the only thing that matters if you really copy something one-to-one. But inspiration is not bad, and it's important. To be fair, I think the key is to establish something. Like if you do something that's just a clear copy and it doesn't convey the USPs of the game, because for me the USPs of the game are the most important. If you do something that's quite similar to another IP, but your key visual conveys the USPs of the game and is more consistent to what the game is talking about and showing, I think that's totally okay, because you are genuine with it. And this is important with key art and with, I think it's important to show it in every marketing and art element talking about any storyline. Like you have to be genuine, you have to show what are the most important elements of it, like how they operate. So of course we do researches and check what kind of brands appear around and can be similar. But we try not to limit ourselves too much. We try to focus on the IP first.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Hey, thank you. Thank you for the great presentation. I have a question connected with the clients. What happened more often? For example, that the client came to you and he's like, he know directly what he wants to accomplish, Or there are more clients that they have, for example, we have this game, we need key visual for that game, but we have no idea how to do it. What's more often happen?
Well, from my experience, the bigger developers often know more what exactly they want to achieve. Think they know more what they want to achieve. And the smaller ones, the ones that do not have as much resources in marketing and stuff, they often come with a more open head. But focusing on it, like we had a lot of examples when clients with a clear vision came to us and we started experimenting and suddenly the brief changed. And it was also this was also an example like this, that the initial brief was more focusing on the world around, not as much as on the hero. And also the clear direction from the dev was that this was an important element. And finally we finished on a very huge focus on the hero. It wasn't a priority at the beginning.
Okie dokie. Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Thank you. Questions? No questions.
Okay, cool.
So thank you, Rafał. So please give Rafał a round of applause.